a few weeks ago, I saw this video by Noah Daniel, and he was talking about the use of honest materials in interiors specifically, as well as architecture, and how it just makes the space feel more honest, more authentic, more real, and the emotional sort of connection you have with those spaces, that they just feel better to you. And I was thinking about this concept generally, and then also more specifically for construction. And this is a big topic that I think deserves a lot of conversations about in the industry and general populace, is that we're using a lot of dishonest materials. It's why everything feels fake right now, is because everything is largely fake.
Honest materials, meaning nothing fake, nothing faux, nothing artificial, authentic finishes. So honest materiality is considered like a main principle of modernist design, but I really believe that more than that, it's like the key ingredient to designing a nice space.
So you go into some place that's older or ancient, you feel different. You feel the authenticity, and you feel that history, and you feel that the building is more alive than if you go into maybe a new show home in a new neighborhood in the city that you live in. I think this building that's in my neighborhood is a prime example of that. This building is a wood-built building that they created this faux facade on, and then they've been cladding it in a variety of materials. This is a great vantage point of it, because you can really see the wood construction here, because they haven't finished the flashing or drip cap at the top. And you can see how thin that tile looks and how uniform it looks, that it clearly is not real tile. And then in addition, with the stucco on the face of it, and then this cardboard sandstone looking thing. And I was watching this as they're putting up, and it's maybe half an inch thick, this sandstone cardboard situation on this building. You can see the wood construction down there too. It's very interesting because I think this is such a great example. So this is as good as videos ever to talk about EIFS, one of the biggest pet peeves I have in modern day construction. It stands for Exterior Insulated Facing System. The problem with EIFS is that it is a combination of not real or dishonest materials. And no shade to the people who actually install this, because they are just going along with industry trends. But this video is a prime example. This guy is applying mortar to the back side of rigid insulation. This looks more like styrofoam. And then they're adhering it directly to the face of the building. And then they'll come back once this is dried, and they'll coat over it with a exterior face of mortar to create a stucco effect. EIFS is everywhere. It's on every multi-family building. It's on every commercial building, and it's increasingly being used in single-family homes as well. You'll see it everywhere you go. Another way that's installed is using this big plastic washer puck system. This is better than adhering it to the exterior face, obviously, but it is sort of unsightly because these inevitably pop through. A problem with EIFS is it's very, very prone to damage. Any outside corner is super prone to it. Also, animals like woodpeckers and birds and other animals like that love burrowing inside of it and chipping away at the exterior face. The biggest problem with EIFS, though, is ultimately the moisture intrusion. When it's glued to the outside of the face of the building, there's absolutely no breathability of it. There's no drainage plane, and so you get a lot of rot and this kind of moisture problem. The use of stucco to clad both interior and exterior of buildings is nothing new. Stucco itself has been used for thousands of years, tracing its origins back to ancient Mesopotamia, Egypt, Greece, and Rome, especially, where it was used widely. It was used to render, like I said, both interior and exterior. When we think of frescoes, that's stucco. And you can see this any place you go to an ancient Roman ruin, you can see that there is still stucco remaining. Do you think our stucco from the houses in the 90s is going to be there in 1,000 years? Probably not. Modern day stucco is mostly cement, Portland cement based, and this transition sort of happened in the 1800s, where we went away from using lime and started using more cement. Post World War II, we sort of changed everything in the construction game. We started building a lot of buildings very quickly, and we changed a lot of how we built and the materials that we were using. Stucco is a prime example. So stucco, like I said, used to be made of lime and aggregate and linseed oil. Well, post 1945, with the creation of a lot of chemicals, which we'll talk about later in the video, we started introducing synthetics like acrylics into stucco because it performed better. Another great example of the honest materials. So that brick is actually panelized. It's hard to tell from here. I'm going to see if I can find a sample, but it's actually just sections of it. And then down here, you can see, oh, sorry. Then here you can see this wood is actually just metal or composite with a wood grain pattern on it. A few that I really wanted to highlight were exterior cladding sort of generically. So we can think about that with composite decking. We can think about that with vinyl siding and the metal or composite wood-like panels that I mentioned earlier in the video. What's interesting is that really the origin of this dishonest cladding for me really started with the introduction of vinyl. So vinyl was initially invented and patented in the early 1900s in Germany, and then it was brought along the ride for the conglomerate creation called IG Farben in the 1920s in Germany. That conglomerate included companies like BASF. It's interesting because a significant amount of the building materials we still use today come from that original conglomerate like BASF, epoxies, polyurethanes, and vinyls. But prior to this, when we look in a historical context and at an honest material context, we used mostly natural materials. We used wood and brick and stone and lime-based stuccos, like I mentioned earlier. And it's important to think of where we were and where we are at now and what the difference is. And in some cases, we've improved products, but in many cases, we've made products worse and we've made the finished product worse. So we have to think about that when we're choosing and applying materials. Obviously, there's a huge cost implication with all of this. We can't afford to have yellow cedar that's charred on the outside of all of our houses, but maybe we can have maybe a more traditional version of stucco rather than a cementitious based stucco. It's interesting to ponder why we use so many dishonest materials and so many dishonest techniques. This dishonest term really applies to construction. In Noah Daniel's original video, he talked a lot about how there is kind of an example or an allegory you can make between fast fashion and fast design architecturally. And this applies to construction as well. I think ephes, as an example, is like H&M. It's fine. You know what it's sort of made out of from the tag, but you don't know really how it was made or the intention behind it being made. And that's the same with ephes. You know, it looks sort of the same and it sort of works the same, but the durability and longevity and feel of it isn't quite the same. And obviously, a lot of this comes down to cost and knowledge. And unfortunately, we're losing a lot of the craftsmanship that used to go into the construction industry and construction period. You know, there used to be specific craftsmen for every single material used on site. We had bricklayers and stonemasons and plasterers. We are using more dishonest materials because unfortunately we sort of have to keep up with the demand of construction. And so this becomes a whole philosophical conversation in society, is because why are we building things so fast, knowingly using dishonest materials that we know are not going to last as long, are less durable, and yet we continue to use them. So this is a call to action to the industry and to individuals to ask why certain products are being used. I guess this is just information to think about these materials, and when you see a building being built, to be really curious about what it's being made from, because this is how we sort of develop and grow forward. Be attuned to what was used in the past and why we use those kinds of materials and why we're using different things now. In some cases it's better, in a lot of cases it's not, and just having that awareness. So I task you with going out in your neighborhood or wherever you live and walking around and seeing construction and asking yourself why they're using those materials, or writing down what materials they're using. I would love to hear comments in the video of anything that you see and create a conversation and discussion about this. And I really want this channel to be a place of education and sharing those sorts of things. So please like, subscribe, and continue following the journey with me. Thanks.